Welcome to this episode of Meet the Artist at Flamethrower. My name is Ben Kusold, and if you're watching this from some dark corner of the internet, come check us out at flamethrower.io. At Flamethrower, you can upload your own animation directly from Maya onto the platform and get great feedback from the community. So come check us out at flamethrower.io. Now, in this episode, I'll be speaking with Jenn Taylor. Jenn is an incredible animator and supervisor at Image Engine in Vancouver, and she's worked on some pretty incredible projects as well, including Jurassic World, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Lost in Space, Game of Thrones, which she won a VES award for, and many, many more. Jenn is super inspiring. She has an incredible attitude, and yeah, it's very inspiring. And I had a beautiful conversation with her, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. So here's Jenn Taylor.
Are we rolling or are we going?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wouldn't say that I 100% just started from like being in a basement going on the internet. I lived in Victoria on the island, and I went to, I basically was going to college and then for biology, and then I decided, I don't know if this is what I actually want to do for a career, even though I really liked studying it. And then like Lord of the Rings came out, and I was like, I want to do whatever this is. This looks cool. How can I do this? And I knew nothing about it. I didn't even know what an animator like career path was. So I found there was a school just like down the road from my house that taught like 3D Studio Max and Maya, like kind of courses there. And I was like, I don't know, I'm quitting college and I'm just going to do this because I don't know, like, this just seems like a passion, and I'm really excited about it. And it was like just what I wanted to do. So I did that, and it kind of gave me an understanding of a little glimpse into what the world was, but I didn't really feel like I had proper skills to like get a job. I just kind of like learned Maya, kind of understood like what a rig is and how to use it, and a little bit like what that process was. So then I basically went home, and I made like this super strict schedule for myself, which actually, if you could see my walls right now, it's exactly the same. I make like these daily plans for myself. So it was like, okay, I have to learn how to show weight. And then I would like look on the internet, find examples of like people demonstrating things. And sometimes I would even just like actually rotomate other people's work when I was first starting, because I wanted to sort of see like, when I have it in 3D now, what does it look like, and what do my curves look like? And sort of, I was learning in sort of a strange way because I didn't really have like guidance from someone. So I just laid out my days, like every day I was working like 6 or 8 hours on a certain element to practice, like little anim tests that I would do. And simultaneously, I got kind of a side gig doing a freelance project on Lost. And I was animating like ping pong balls and stuff like that. So pretty like simple animation, but it kept like a little bit of money coming in. And then I was spending the rest of my time doing these little tests for myself. And after about 6 months of that, I made a demo reel, and then I sent it to Bardell in Vancouver. And that's how I got my first like actual job.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a weird process.
Yeah. But super like commendable, because there's so many of us who's been through the whole schooling system, and animation is not an easy thing to get into because the quality we see is so high, so it's super intimidating.
Yeah.
But you pursued it on your own, just knowing this is what you wanted. How did you know it was animation and not modeling or texturing? Was it just the movement of it, or?
I guess initially, I think I was actually more drawn to effects before I did anything at all. I just thought that was interesting from seeing it in films. But once, like, I can't remember the specific moment, but I feel like as soon as I got a rig and I moved it around, I was like, this is fun. Like, this is something that I'm really keen to do. And I liked shooting reference, and I liked the whole process. And I felt like it was like a pretty creative side. Like, rigging felt too technical to me, and effects as well. So I think it just sort of was a nice balance for like creativity with some technical, but not too heavy on that side. And I just really was drawn to it.
Yeah. And then you just figured at some point, okay, now I need more. So you send in an application to Bardell.
Yeah. Yeah. I just felt like I think I'm actually ready now to, do the job. Because before I felt like a little bit like I just sort of understood how the program worked and how to sort of move it around in a technical sense, but not really the underlying fundamentals of the art of animation. So that's what I was sort of spending that time learning.
Yeah. So did you have a, like, I can imagine coming from, like your own little lab and then going to a production.
Yeah.
There must be a lot of lingo that you weren't picking up on right away that you had to figure out.
Oh man, I didn't know, like, I remember actually our current previous supervisor, Cam, he worked with me at my first job, and he was like previous soup there as well, I believe. And he gave me a scene, like a previous scene to start on, and it had all these like locators everywhere, and they were constrained to things, and I was like, so Cam, I don't quite understand what these little locator things are, but they're kind of in the way. I don't really like, I don't think I need these things around. And he's just like I had no idea about that stuff at all. I was just like, let me animate my characters. I'm like, what's IKFK switching? Like, I was pretty green. It was just sort of like, I was just kind of rolling with it. But I really, really liked the structured environment, and I felt like I got up to speed pretty quick as soon as I was like, oh, cool, I'm getting notes, and like people around me are doing this, and I was just pretty excited. So
Yeah.
I think like that motivation level just got me to get up to speed pretty quick.
And then from looking at, I may be jumping a bit ahead here, but I just looking at your resume that you pursued leadership or
Yeah,
more responsibility fairly soon. Was
pretty
it
soon.
was that something that came to you, or that you wanted to pursue that as?
Yeah. It's funny. I guess I got into this like relatively early. Like I didn't really have another career before this. I just worked in a restaurant. Um, so I'd never really actually been exposed to a situation where I would potentially be in leadership, and I had never even really thought about it.
Hmm.
But as soon as I was there, I think I just naturally felt like it was something that I was interested in. Like I really like helping people. I think I'm pretty organized and sort of liked to set up plans that we could then execute. And I felt like it would help the team kind of stay on track. And I
Hmm.
think that just kind of is a natural aptitude. So what I did not have was any sort of like confidence in being a leader or any of that. But I think just kind of demonstrating how I was staying on track personally and trying to help everyone around me helped me
Hmm.
get into that really quick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It, yeah, it did seem to come very natural to you at the Image Engine. Uh, yeah,
Well,
it seemed like you had found your lane in that whole thing. Also,
yeah.
yeah, I heard
I
you.
was just,
Oh, sorry,
oh,
go
go
on.
ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
I did. I just. I heard you say in. I think that was a. It was a interview by text, and you had said that you appreciated when people did their part for the whole team. So we can't all do the cool hero shots all the time.
Yeah.
So what that was something that you highly appreciated in a team member. And then
Yeah.
I remember you walking the walk as well yourself by picking up a lot of those shots when we worked on kind of a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was inspiring. It seems like the whole the leadership thing was a natural one. It was about a team.
Yeah. I think at a certain point, like, while I was in leadership early, I was still very much focused on, my own growth as an artist. And
Hmm.
I think that was really key for me for many years, where I wanted to make sure that, I was continuing to be challenged and improve myself. So
Yes.
actually later on, maybe 5 or 6 years into my career, I did animation mentor as well. And I was simultaneously doing that because I wanted to, again, just like find a way to level up my skills and um, work with like instructors that had a lot of experience and all that. So I think once I had sort of reached a level where I felt fairly confident in my animation ability, then my shift towards leadership got even stronger, where I felt like I think the biggest contribution that I can give to the team now is to assist them, or that was my goal anyway. Like, I get the most satisfaction now from having a show run where my team is happy. Like, if they're motivated and they get to work on fun stuff, and there's not chaos everywhere and technical problems, and people are pretty much having a good time, like, that is my absolute top goal. And I just kind of felt like if I can provide that, then that's where I want to focus my efforts now, after I've been in this for 16 years now, so it's many years of still continuing. I have to improve my animation, but I think at a certain point it's like, where can I be the most help?
I think I haven't, it's been a decade for me, just about, and I can feel it. It's like a lifetime process. I was curious about your process too, because like you said, you do seem very organized. I had a feeling when we worked together that you could kind of like maneuver well in any discipline or any part of the pipeline, and then so there's like a really broad understanding, and I think with that comes I think you need to be more organized, and it seems to me a little bit like, because I'm quite disorganized, and I've become messier at the longer I've done it. I feel like it's become more like an intuition. So now it's like a big mess of like. Did you start as organized as you are now, or how has your progression been?
I think that I always was pretty organized. Like, I always took a lot of notes, and I would try to sort of plan out my day, which I still do today. Like, I'll write, Monday, these are the tasks that are the highest priority, and I'm going to make sure that I hit them in this order. And, I might have a subsection of, if I get to them, these are great, but these are the things I need to focus on. I feel like looking ahead and trying to foresee any sort of problems that might come up, and addressing those as soon as possible, or getting sort of processes in place early on before it starts to impact production or the team or cause frustrations is pretty key. And I mean, these are things that as an artist I experienced on shows working. So I just sort of gathered this information over the years of like, okay, these are things that start to come up that might be a problem. And if I am now in a position where I can make some changes early on in a show, I want to make sure that I'm addressing this, or at least acknowledging it, so that we know this might be a thing. So yeah, I think it was a little bit of like, probably organization. It comes pretty naturally to me, but also just the years of experience of what problems might arise and nipping them in the bud. That's been like and that continues to this day. For sure. But and then with the pipeline, I mean, I've been an image engine for most of the last 10 years, so I've really evolved with it. So I think that really helps, just have a good understanding of how it works there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's I guess it makes sense. It does make sense to have like really strong organization in leadership. That I think that's also why we felt quite secure on the show on Carnival Row. I was also curious about feedback. You mentioned how you saw things being done when you were animating and not leading yet. Have you, with the same with giving feedback, did you learn from then, and then you're applying that now that you're on the other side of that conversation, and you're the one giving feedback?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that actually probably was one of the parts that I was the most nervous about when moving into kind of a supervision role, because there's always sort of like, is everyone gonna like, respect my opinion, or am I giving the right notes? Because it's very, subjective, I guess, to what the correct note is all the time. So I think, you know, there's a little bit of a learning curve with gaining confidence in that, absolutely. But the main thing I think I've learned just from receiving notes is just to be really clear about what the action items actually are, and not so much about just like a feeling, because it can be a little bit too broad, especially if it's like potentially a negative note. You know, sometimes you might get notes come in that are a little bit like, doesn't look good, or, you know, something like really vague and kind of negative. And you're like, well, you know, what is it that you actually want from this next iteration? And I really feel like that was something I wanted to avoid. Like, well, of course, be as positive as possible, but also like make the notes very actionable and not just sort of a broad like stroke of I like this or I don't like it kind of thing, which I think comes up more than you might like.
Oh yeah. I had a conversation with Aaron Gilman from Steamroller, who used to be at DNAC, and he talked about relationships as being the main driver for everything, and it seems to me like you would maybe agree with that it's like it's about understanding these people and understanding who you're giving the note to, and animators can be a fragile bunch of so it's about understanding. So like, do you find yourself is all these notes that you give, this feedback, is it all based on the person, or do you have some sort of, usually it helps if I like talk about what works, and then I kind of serve the
like a compliment.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, I think in all cases people respond pretty well to at least some positive encouragement, you know. That's something that, you know, I hope that I always try to present to the team. But you know, even if there is a case where it's like, this really isn't working, like you do sometimes have to say like, I don't think this is working. I think we need to try a new thing, and just be as respectful as possible. But definitely having to cater or adjust to individuals is a big part of leadership, and that's like going to be an ongoing process, I'm sure, with everyone I work with.
Also new people coming in, right? So
you kind of have your default, like, this is how I'm going to start out. Okay, so we're going to just skew a little bit for this guy.
Exactly. Here's the weird one.
But, that's how it is. And that's kind of part of the fun of the job too.
Yeah, because like I don't know if you would agree with this, but there is like a juxtaposition in being an animator where you're asked to put a lot of care and love and into this, your 60 frames or whatever. And then you're also being told exactly what to do. So it's like being a visionary in a confined playground, and you really have to especially as a leader, you have to respect how people are kind of like dealing with that, because it's a tricky one, I find. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I think honestly it makes my life easier if artists are really inspired and come up with something cool. Like I certainly don't feel that it's my job to dictate step by step every single thing to do. I think it's more like, you know, having an overall view of what we're trying to achieve. And then it's really great when people come up with cool stuff, because sometimes, you know, you let people play around and someone might come up with like an idea or like sort of a character trait that you didn't think of, and it works really well. And then you can kind of share that with the team. So it gives a little bit more like opportunity for ideas to flourish, and I love that. So
yeah.
I think, like, you know, I'd never want to stamp down on that.
No, that makes sense. Okay, so I got us off track a little bit. I don't know if there's a track, but I was also I was curious why you went from the at some point you went from the Toonie kind of animation, and then it's like you made a shift into I believe it was ILM Singapore. That was there was another job before that in VFX, right?
I did work actually in VFX on like some talking animal films. So I had a little bit of experience there with just like plates and
Oh, right. Okay.
dealing with that just kind of getting a little bit of my feet wet, but not in terms of like full VFX style animation. Not much of it anyway. But when I was in Singapore at ILM, I was actually at Lucasfilm. So I was doing the Clone Wars TV
Nice.
series.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But the only reason, honestly, I wasn't in VFX sooner is I couldn't get in. And I think, probably a lot of people have experienced this where you kind of get a little pigeonholed if you start in a certain style. Like, and I was starting kind of in TV cartoon animation.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I realized that my demo reel is just cartoons, but I really want to be in VFX. And it was just really hard to kind of break that boundary across until I got that opportunity at Image Engine. I just hadn't broken in. So that was really the only reason. I was quite keen to be in VFX for a while before that.
And then was it fairly early on that you worked on what was your first big show at Image Engine?
It was Elysium.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was a really big one, and that was really fun. And then it was just kind of a fun roll of shows we had there, like Jurassic World not long after that, Ninja Turtles. Yeah, so once I got my foot in there, I was like, this is the sweetest, and I was rolling with whatever came up.
Nice. How did you find that transition? Was it a steep learning curve, or?
I didn't really find it difficult. I think part of the reason is like Elysium was a lot of kind of roto-based animation, so it was sort of like a gentle introduction to working more with plates and everything. And then, once I moved on to my next shows, it was like I understood all the technical aspects of VFX by that point, but then it was a little bit more like, not cartoony, but like Ninja Turtles and this show we did, RIPD, was like a little more what I was used to in terms of just animated characters, but in a VFX setting. So it was kind of a nice sort of transition into that world.
Yeah, I jumped ahead a bit because I remember watching the you worked on a sequence with Drogon in Game of Thrones. I think it was was it season 7 or was it 6? 7. Okay.
7. Yeah.
I remember like when I saw the Drogon attacking the caravan, and I was just blown away. It was just so good, and then I had to look up which company worked on it, and then I started thinking like, man, I should try that out, and then
how do I get in there?
Exactly. Yeah. No, that was cool because at that point I had been in VFX for quite a while. I think 7 years, and so getting reignited and excited about this the same job was pretty cool. It must have been a pretty cool sequence to just walk in on. I know it took a while and it was a big team, and that show was a blast. I mean, everybody at the company wanted to work on it, basically. I mean, giant dragons, and that was the season. I think they had just doubled in size to be like the biggest size. Exactly.
So there was like a whole new kind of like, how are we going to demonstrate this weight? And there was like a cool challenge with doing all of that as well. So yeah, that was cool. I was a lead on that, and Jason Simon was the soup. So we had a great time. That was a fun show for sure for the whole team. Yeah.
Was that your first lead experience there, or
at Image Engine? No, I had done a few shows before that. I think with I did like Final Fantasy show, and Fantastic Beasts, I think, was before that. So I think it was my third show.
Nice. Yeah, that was cool. I was pretty. I didn't know much about Image Engine before I joined and before watching this sequence, but I was pretty. I was pretty surprised and in a good way about how much creature work actually comes in. And yeah,
Yeah.
like
It's-
I hope that's still the case, but yeah, there was a lot there at that point anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what's kind of fun. Like we tend to get a lot of creature stuff, and I mean, who doesn't like working on that stuff, right? It's like a variety too, because it goes through like you'll get robots and then you'll get kind of dinosaur stuff, and you
Yeah,
get kind of a nice mix. So it's not just like digidoubles all the time.
yeah.
And I think that keeps it interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like they have enough interesting work and prospects for you to stay around as well. Like, obviously, you don't
Yeah,
have to share anything you don't want to, but it seems like you're happy there.
I am. I mean, it's I've been in enough companies now that I think I know what's important to me, and just I just really get like the culture there is just what I'm after, and I just sort of like feel really like this is my place. So yeah, I have no intentions of going elsewhere.
Nice. I, I, I. It was just I'm going to mention it because it's such a cool story. I think Nathan McConnel told me that he he told me that you had a airplane license, so you can fly a plane.
Yeah.
And I think you were the one who told me it was because it was the conquer of fear of heights that the whole thing started.
Yeah, that was kind of a large part of it. I don't really like flying, like in jets.
No?
I honestly even, well, I haven't been in one for a while now, but they would freak me out to the point where I like traveling, but I wasn't enjoying that process because I had to get in the jet, and I was just always like I'm clinging to the seats, and I'd
Yeah.
be freaked out. And I thought, you know, I think part of what I didn't like was that I felt so out of control, and like I didn't really understand all the aspects of flight.
Mm.
And then I thought, well, if I become a pilot, then I will understand all of that stuff. And so I just started learning how to do that. And it took 3 years because it was sort of like on the side, and there's a lot of rain in Vancouver, so a lot of flights get canceled. But
Right.
it definitely made a big difference, like having just that understanding of aerodynamics and how planes stay in the sky. And I'm like, turbulence.
Yeah. I'm also it's that's an amazing way to react to something that you're not comfortable with. I'm it's I don't maybe I'm just trying to make connections here, but it seems a little bit like how you first got into animation, that there's like there's something to do, or there's something to work with, and then you meet it head on.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool it's a pretty cool it's a cool headspace to be in, that you can tackle things that way.
Yeah, well, I think it's like I like a challenge. I guess I find that interesting. And I think, I actually am afraid of a lot of things. So if I
Of
didn't
course.
kind of just tackle it, I think I'd just be like holed up in my apartment. So I don't know. I've just felt like, even socially and like, with leadership and with all of these things, it's like,
Yeah.
I just feel like the only way to really get past it is to just do it and just force yourself through it, even if it's uncomfortable or scary.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're like, wow, you gain that confidence because not only can you overcome something scary, but you now have a new skill or ability that you can use moving forward.
Yeah. No, that's super cool and also very inspiring. Speaking of inspiring, my very good friend Marion Strunk, she's at Access now in London, but she's been in VFX in many years. And I was putting this whole thing together, and I have a list of cool people that I wanted to talk to, and you were on it right away, of course. But I wanted to talk to more women in the anime supervision.
Yeah.
And I asked Marion, like, it's like, can you point me to someone? And she was like, if you find someone, tell me, because it's so yeah, you're
Yeah.
one of few, and
I know.
it's a cool position to be in, I assume, to be able to inspire, because I know there's a few girls on the animation team, and having taught recently myself in schools, there's a lot more women in studying animation as well. Do you have you seen a change or that?
It's not so much in leadership.
No.
We try, definitely. We do have Julia is a lead animator now.
Oh,
in
nice.
Dungeons, so we do try, whenever we feel like an artist is ready, we really try to like encourage that sort of growth for them. And thankfully, she was keen to move into that role. So that was really great. But I don't see as much of it as, would be nice. And I'm not really sure why. I think it's just, if anyone's listening, don't feel like you need to put a ceiling on yourself. Like, honestly, if you just, I never, to be completely honest, thought about that in my career path as I was kind of moving up. Like my first leadership job at Bardell, like I didn't think, oh, I'm a woman, I wonder if I should have this. I never thought about it. I was just like, this seems like a thing I want to do. And then they were like, yeah, cool. And that's kind of like mostly how I've found it across the way. Like, studios want good leaders. If you're a good leader, they're going to want you to do the job. It really, like, gendered, I don't think it's going to hold you back.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, it obviously I can't speak about my own experience because it's like there's plenty of people like me in leadership, so it's not unusual. But that's great to hear. I guess there is something to be said of being able to show the way. And would you another thing I heard is I think a lot of us tend to not speak up when the things that we want. We want to show how good we are through our work, but it's not always possible to show ambition through the work.
I know.
And then a lot of us are just sitting there hoping that I hope Jenn will see.
Me.
Yeah. How are you dealing with a team where are you trying to kind of feel out who would be good or who would be suitable for leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like we'll straight up have that conversation. Like a lot of times I'll try to have at least one, if not two, one-on-ones with my team throughout a show and just sort of check in with them about how they're doing, but also to understand what their goals and ambitions are and see kind of like where we can fit those into the show or the studio needs or anything like that. One thing I will say for sure, kind of on that whole like moving up the chain, I was not quiet about it ever. Like I did not sit and wait for someone to choose me. I asked for every single role.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's something to be like ashamed of or worried about doing. I think it's like if you want to move ahead, you need to make the people that can make those decisions aware of what you're after.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, oh, make me a leader, I'm leaving. It was like, I'm really interested in leadership. What can I do to maybe hone my skills so that you feel that I'm ready? And then I would always try to sort of work as if I was half in the next role above me. So like as a senior, hey guys, what leadership can I take on to help the team? You want me to help with these technical problems? Great. So like picking up extra stuff, just sort of demonstrating that you're willing to help out and go the next step. And then when a role becomes available, you'll be the natural choice because you've already demonstrated it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is that that seems like a good advice for a young aspiring animator?
Yeah, absolutely. Ask for it, but don't be cocky because there's got to be a balance. Like you need to be self-aware enough to know, like, am I ready for this? Accept feedback like graciously from people around you and be willing to work on the areas that you still need to improve upon, because we all have them and they continue for your whole career. So I think sort of balancing that and having a good understanding of where you're at and are you really ready to kind of start pushing to the next level, and then whenever you can just absolutely go for it.
Nice. Yeah. Is that what you would have told yourself as well when you first started out? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think I was kind of just going in blind. I had no idea what to expect or what I was doing. I didn't have like a grand path, but yeah, I would have probably, it's worked out pretty well for me. So I would say I would follow it again.
nice. Like it seems like I know you did say that you have your fears as well, but it seems like you what did you have to overcome a lot to speak up at first, or to ask for, or were there any chances that you had to you felt like you had to take, or risk that you had to run? Oh,
Not really. I never really had much of a problem with like asking for a role, or not even asking so much. Like sometimes the role didn't even exist, and I would just be like, hey, who's in charge of role decisions? I'm gonna go chat with them. And I'd be like, just so you guys know, this is what I want to be doing with
nice.
it, like, you know, as my next step.
Yeah.
And that never really, I think because I never had a negative reaction to that sort of process, I just felt like it was totally fine to do. Like I pretty much did that probably within like 6 months or a year of my first job, when I thought there might be a lead role coming up, and I was like, I want to be a lead.
Yeah.
And then they're like, why do you think you should have this role? And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I should have an answer to that question. So sort of you start to learn why, when you're ready, and how to sort of show that.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm just aware of the time now, and we're coming up to about what you agreed to, and yeah, thank you so much again for doing this.
Yeah, no worries at all. Was there anything that would help round it out?
I think a lot of the people listening will be people starting out, or people curious, or people studying animation. So yeah. I think you gave a lot of good advice, and also you kind of laid out a cool trajectory for people to follow, because like you said, not everyone just have the means to go to a 3-year program. So it's inspiring to hear that you can get there in other ways. So
yeah, absolutely. And actually on that note, I would 100% say, like, if you feel like what's holding you back is not being able to go to a traditional school, yeah, that will not hold you back. You just need to grind. Like, get a copy of Maya, and the internet is your best friend. There's a lot of courses and opportunities to learn for free or cheap.
For sure.
If you've got a demo reel that demonstrates what you need to show, that's really all that we look for.
I also think sometimes you get stuck in the whole of, like, you know, like you have to apply to a company, and then you apply through the whole setup that they have. But other times you can ask for feedback when you submit, and you can, if you get a rejection, I found that you can kind of ask, like, is there suggestions? Or I feel like, do you think that something like that would get a response? Or
yeah, I mean, I think it definitely would be worth asking, because I don't get I haven't seen a lot of that in actual applicants asking for feedback if they didn't get hired. But if they did, and if like our recruiter came to us and said, oh, this person was asking, you know, for some feedback, absolutely, we would definitely do that.
Yeah, it's my experience as well, is that when I first started out, I wish I would have known how much seniors would actually want to help when you get ahead a bit. Then you will gladly hand out, you know, whatever you learned, because you wish you had known yourself earlier. So it's nice to pass it on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help as a blanket rule.
Exactly. And say what you want loud and proud, and then
there you go.
Okay, Jen, thank you so much again for doing
All right,
this.
Ben.
This super helpful.